This is Paul's yard walk for February 2014, and we're having forecast here in about 3 or 4 hours. It's supposed to just be pouring rain like crazy, and the wind's supposed to come up. So I thought it was a good time to film the yard walk for February. I hadn't gotten around to February yet. So as you'll see, we've had some cold weather. We've had some rain finally. We're supposed to get more rain today, and then another storm coming through sometime tomorrow. So that'll kind of catch us up a little bit with our rain. Since October, we're somewhere around 10 inches below normal. But at least we've had enough to keep everything going. And you can see here from around me, right where I'm sitting, all the ferns are nice and green. They're not wilted at all. They've had enough moisture to keep them going. And I think the trees are okay for the most part, except the dead ones that blew down, but that's okay. That's natural. So enjoy the yard walk for February, and we'll do another one in March. This segment's being filmed in mid-February. It's February 15th today, and I'm probably going to do some more later and put together the whole video, but I thought at least I'd check some stuff. I see here we have some irises that have come up. I do not remember ever planting these, but I presume they came from a pot sometime in the last few years, and I just dropped them here in this spot. And I'm surprised. We'll go over and check. I don't think the crocuses are even up yet, but I'll go check that here in a minute. Here we've got, underneath all these weeds, I haven't done my spring cleanup yet, is some heather that's actually blooming, which is kind of pretty. We're expecting rain this afternoon and tomorrow. We've had some rain. There's supposed to be a big storm, maybe some high winds. So hopefully that won't be too bad. But these two little guys here, these almost got killed off in a really cold weather we had about 4 years ago. And they have the word, I can't remember their name, but they have the word bamboo is part of their common name, but they're actually not a bamboo. They're something else. I guess I can look it up, but there's two of them here. And they're kind of they have, I guess the leaves are faintly reminiscent of bamboo, but they'll get bigger. They've been gradually coming back over the last 4 years since they almost died. This was a dwarf rhododendron, and I think it's dead. It had a bad time last summer. I think I forgot to water it, and we had a really dry summer. And I think that, combined with the fact that deer had eaten all the leaves off this end of it, and then these ends, you can see that the leaves just dried up. So I think it's dead. I'm going to wait until the spring to make sure, and then I'll just yank it out of there. It's not in a really great spot anyway. There's a pyrrhus here next to it, and that's my culinary rosemary there. And then this is a Mexican orange right there, so it's kind of buried back here in the shade anyway. I don't know what I'll do with this spot. Maybe I'll put the pyrrhus seems to do fine here. Maybe I'll put another pyrrhus back in here. Or whatever this is. What's it say? I forget what this is. Ceanothus, Julia Phelps ceanothus. Maybe I'll see if I can find another ceanothus and put in there too. I don't know, although it doesn't seem to like the shade as much. So it's kind of a balancing act here. You know, we've got a lot of microclimates. It's always a balancing act between wet, dry, shade, sun, good soil, clay, rock. You know, it's always a deer. So anywho, so there's this other rhododendron right here. It's going to have a few blooms this year. There's some buds here. It has, like, as I recall, there's lavender blooms. This one was over in front of the dining room window, and it was getting too big, so I transplanted it. Adult rhododendrons do not like to be transplanted. They're very unhappy. This one stalk right here is one of the original stalks that it had. The rest of this, all this stuff here, is new growth that's come up in the years since I transplanted it. I transplanted it and I had to water the heck out of it that summer because it didn't have enough roots. And like I said, it was not happy when I transplanted it. But it's come back, and it seems to do okay here. It gets a little bit too much sun right here, and then some buggy critter has been chewing on some of the leaves here. It's also partly in front of this Mexican orange behind it, but that's okay. The Mexican orange will grow up, and between these two Mexican oranges and the Pyrrhus there, and then this rhodie, it also blocks the view. There's the neighbor's house right there, so this kind of helps block the view here at the top of the hill between us and our closest neighbor, which is okay. I'm here in our backwoods. This is a natural clearing. It's right in the middle of our backwoods. And it was caused, I presume, by when some big trees fell over. I remember there was one really big one over there. I can't see it from here, that had fallen. So some trees fell, and then it's mostly ferns. And then you can see here in front of me, there's a lot of salal ground cover, pretty dense. There's some trees here that had died and fallen over in the big winds we had this winter. There's two right here in front of me. There's those white ones with the white trunks. Those are alders. They'll probably die here eventually and fall over, or the wind will get them. The rest of these are Doug firs that are mostly too close together. But anyway, there's a nice little clearing here, which I've always kind of liked. Don't know what else to say about it other than the fact that it's just kind of a natural clearing. There is some evergreen huckleberries, some of those shrubs that are kind of sticking up. Those are evergreen huckleberries in here also. Don't know what other native plants there are other than that, but the ground cover in here is pretty thick, several feet tall. Let's see if we can walk over here through all the down timber. Someday I guess I could come back here with my chainsaw and kind of clean this up a little bit and make a path through here again. Used to have a nice path going through here where I could come out and walk, but it's kind of blocked now with all the new growth and all the down trees. So, but here we go. Here's a nice. You can see here, kind of a nice little clearing, little glen here. I don't know how big it is from one end here to the other. It's more than 50 feet probably. Oh, there's a red huckleberry I can see right there too. And there's some native blackberries. These are native blackberries here. They're not near. They're stringy and they send runners, but their thorns are much smaller than the Himalayan invasive blackberries. Luckily, I don't see any invasive blackberries back in here. Okay, let's go back. Looks like there's some up to the daffodils. I think that's what these probably are coming up here. There's a few of them here. They'll be a little while yet. These are some blueberries, and you can see the leaves of these blueberries got bit a little bit. These are evergreen blueberries, but we had our second cold snap in early February. So we had two cold snaps this year. We had one in early December and one in early February, and both times temperatures got down to 20 and maybe a little under 20 degrees. So these blueberries did not like 20 degrees, but you know, other than the fact that some of their leaves have turned brown, they'll pop back. These are young ones. They'll get, at least twice this size. They've only been here for 2 years. Some got blasted by the cold. So we'll see what happens. It's still got some green growth here, though. There's a green leaf right there, so it's still alive. So it'll come back, I think. This is the weed patch over here in the side yard where the crocuses are. The black dirt on top here is actually some compost that I just sprinkled. It's sort of a light fertilizer. It doesn't have a lot of nitrogen in it, but it's got some micronutrients and it adds tilth. And of course, like I said in the previous episodes, we have a lot of clay. Now, just looking right here, I can actually see this is a little clump of crocuses coming right there. These little green stems right there. These are weeds. The bigger leaf things are weeds. Here's some more crocuses right there. There's some more underneath that twig. I'll move that out of the way. There's some right there. So the crocuses are coming up. They're just a little green. It'll be I don't know. It'll be a week or two yet before they bloom. But there should be some more that I just planted last fall down here. And let's see if any of those, see any of the new ones yet. So either they're a little late or later than the others, or hopefully they're not dead. Hopefully the cold didn't kill them off. So I'll wait and see. Hopefully they'll come up. These are California lilacs that I planted. There's a big one back there just this side of the pampas grass there. And these two I had transplanted. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a squirrel. And also there's a bird noise. I think that's probably a junco talking over here. But these two got moved because they were in bad locations. So hopefully they made it through the winter, obviously. And they'll bush out and get as big as that guy up there, hopefully. And add a little color over here to this side of the yard. The reason the crocuses are planted over here is this is the north side of the yard. And this is the side that gets the sun in the early spring. So if it wasn't cloudy today, the sun would be up, near the tops of those trees there, and it would be moving from left to right from our field of view here. And so this side of the yard gets the sun in the early spring, and that side of the yard over there, where the Oregon grapes are that like more shade, they get shade until they don't really get direct sun there until like in the mornings. In May and June and July, they get direct sun over there. But the rest of the time, they're pretty much in shade, or at least partial shade. And surprisingly, this is a month or so ago, last episode, we looked at this particular Oregon grape, Mahonia here, and noticed all the blooms that it had. And then, of course, since then, the temperature has gotten very cold. And you can see if I tip this down, the brown there are buds that have frozen. But there's still quite a few here on the tips that are actually blooming. So it should hopefully get some little berries here pretty soon. I hope. Yeah, I'm surprised that all these flowers stayed in here. And this little guy, this is a different Mahonia, a different type here. I see that it's got some buds actually coming right there too. So it's going to have some blooms too. It's got a very different. I planted these two close together when they were small, but that's okay. They'll grow up next to each other like that. That's fine. This is a ground cover that I moved. A small piece of ground cover that was in. I can't remember where it was. It's about 10 years ago. It was in the backyard someplace, and it wasn't happy where it was. So I brought it out here and put it underneath these two Doug fir trees, and you can see it's spread pretty good here. This whole area here is all this ground cover. It gets pretty little blue flowers in the spring, and otherwise it's just a nice little spreading ground cover, and it's not terribly invasive. You can see that it kind of stops. It doesn't really. This is a dry shade area where it's growing here, and grass won't grow there anyway. So you can see it kind of stops where the grass goes. And once or twice a year when I do mow this upper hill, I just mow along the edge there, and it just keeps it in bay. So it's a good little ground cover. Of course, I don't remember the name of it because it was probably 10 years ago that I planted it, but oh well. We visit the hellebores. This one here is going to have dark. This is last year's growth here, and this is this new growth here. The leaves have not turned green yet on the new growth, or it's just starting to. And there's a bud there that hasn't opened yet. This is going to be a dark blackish purple flower when that opens. And there's another one over here, which is just open, and there's a little white flower there. That's a smaller one. And then we're going to go over here and check across all the salal. Here's another hellebore. I think we had 4 at one time. We've only got 3 left. This one also has some blooms. They're kind of a reddish purple, just coming. This is last year's growth and new growth. So pretty soon I'll come out here and cut back. When I remember to do this, I'll come and cut back last year's growth, but I'll leave it for a little bit longer yet. It doesn't look too bad yet. Douglas squirrel. Looking for sunflower seeds. We had quite a few. The bird count at my feeders had gone down, and then when we got that cold snap, the bird count went back up again, and I picked up a few species that I hadn't seen all winter. Purple finches, a pine siskin, they hadn't been here at all, and during that cold snap I picked them up on my bird count. There's nothing here right now because I'm standing here, but as soon as I leave there'll be some juncos and chickadees and whatnot will come. Right before the cold snap we had one camellia that actually had opened, one flower. These are all camellia buds. Here you can see this. Here's again. Beautiful. So here's one camellia bud. There's a whole bunch of them here. There's one way up here. See if I can bring this branch back. Oh, it's a heavy branch. I don't know if I can do it. Okay, that was fun. I just almost fell over. Okay, there. This brown dead-looking flower there was a camellia that was nice bright red right before our cold snap, and it opened a little bit too early and froze. But the rest of these are okay. They hadn't opened yet, and over the next few weeks and a month they'll be covered with flowers. This other camellia, there was a different plant in here which I moved out 10 years ago and planted a second camellia. So there's two camellias here, and this one's never bloomed for some reason, and I don't know why. It's growing pretty good. Some of the leaves are a little brownish from the cold weather, but it looks pretty good. It's just it's never bloomed. Maybe it's not old enough. I don't know.